I guess my first question is very basic. I'm sure it was just an hour ago that you learned of the passing of Justice Ginsburg. What was your reaction when you learned?
Shock and sadness. I knew that she'd been facing a lot of health challenges, but at the same time, she was such an icon, and for so many of us, she just seemed invincible. It's tragic.
So, as you had told me prior to us chatting here, you have seen her speak most recently in January, I believe you said, and
Yes.
you've also seen her in action. What were your impressions of her from the January speech? And also, I'm just curious about what your impressions of her were of her during oral arguments.
When you see her speak, when you see her in a fireside chat sort of interview, she is remarkably funny and thoughtful and pointed in a compassionate way. She really makes you think. She really is a firm believer in compassion and open-mindedness and appreciating people's differences. And I think that that really infused and enhanced her jurisprudence and her thinking. And it's part of her legacy with the expansion of rights to women and minorities. She is she's a really wonderful person. She was bright, incisive, polite, and very strategic in her questions. Her questions were not meant to grandstand or to show off. Her questions were meant to expand the understanding of a case.
And with that, and you sort of touched on it in the first half of your answer there, but when the dust settles on, in her immediate passing, what do you think will be her lasting legacy?
Oh, I think that's going to be multifaceted, and I think we're going to be appreciating that for decades to come. She was a champion of justice and expanding rights for all. She was a defender of the Constitution and the best ideas and ideals in that Constitution. When she was at Roger Williams in 2017, she told us that we, the people, at first only meant white men. But as we have grown and matured as a nation, we have come to understand and appreciate that that means we, the people, everyone. And I think that's part of her legacy. And then also part of her legacy is going to be the fact that she was a brilliant technician. She was the Supreme Court's expert on civil procedure, which is not exactly the most exciting subject in the world, but is very important for the proper practice of law. So she was not just a person who believed in high-minded ideals and how to activate those within the law. She was also a lawyer's lawyer. And I think that's fantastic to be that well-rounded and that influential. I think she's one of the all-time greats on the Supreme Court.
I imagine, too, she has an enormous influence on academia and law in that, law school students not only study the cases from, where she was either in the majority opinion or she was a dissent, but also cases from when she argued in front of the Supreme Court. Can you think of too many other people that would have that sort of influence in terms of the academics of law?
Thurgood Marshall would be one. He argued before the court and made huge contributions. There are a number, but there are really few people who have had the kind of influence that she's had. We're going to celebrate her and remember her and be influenced by her and be better as a nation because of her for decades to come.
I'm sure you loathe to wade into politics at all, but I am going to ask, I'm just wondering if you have any thoughts or an opinion, I guess I should say, on what you think the Senate should do or maybe what they might do with, several months left to January. What do you think might happen?
I think that's awfully hard to tell. The last time we were in this situation, the Senate said, we better wait for an election. And it will be very interesting to see if they do the same thing now, which would be a principled way to approach it.
Final question for you, and I think it's probably too early to ask, but any thoughts on, as you said, 2017, Justice Ginsburg visited Bristol. Any thoughts on what the law school might do to honor her moving forward?
We are working on that right now, so stay tuned.